Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Daddy Issues. Today we got a Mario, and this is probably one of the best episodes that we have done. He comes out of the gate swinging, and it's amazing. So take a listen. Awesome, man. Thank you for jumping on the pod. I'm excited to hear your story a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad to be a part of this.
Yeah. Awesome. Have you heard any episodes that we've put out so far?
I have not. I haven't been in the group for very long.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's just kind of like just tell a little bit about your story and what you've kind of been through, and then just give some advice that you might have for other fathers out there that could potentially help them. I don't know if you're still going through your situation or if it's been over or what.
Sure. Okay. So, my name is Mario. I am 44. I have four children, two 16-year-olds, a 14, and a 12-year-old. My ex-wife and I, we separated almost 2 years ago. We had been together for about 16 years. It was one of those crazy things where we were just people, two people who met at a party. And we were having fun together, and things got a little crazy. We just ended up married. Had only known each other a few months.
Yeah.
It's normally, those kind of situations, you don't see it lasting very long, but we made it to 16 years at least.
I was going to say 16 years is a long time.
Yeah. I mean, we made it, we tried to make it work for the most part, but I was constantly stumbling. One of my biggest problem was just, all this baggage I carried with me when I was from when I was a child. I had one of those, typical Latino families growing up, and they were super conservative, and they thought that discipline was the norm. And I went through some pretty horrific episodes. My mother was when I was mostly physically abusive and verbally abusive. My father tended to humiliate me by paddling me in front of my classroom or in front of administrators, and that did a lot of damage.
So you carried that on to your relationship and your marriage and stuff like that?
Exactly.
Got you.
I think the first sign of it was when I would find myself spanking my kids out of anger and frustration rather than as a means of actual discipline.
Right.
I realized that was something my mother did, and I had this constant self-esteem issues as a result of me being questioned for my best not being good enough. It was another constant thing that occurred to me. So here I am, struggling to try to figure myself out, and now I have a family, and now I'm having to figure myself out and try to figure out how to be a dad and a husband. And it was a losing battle the whole time. I needed to grow up and mature. But what I didn't realize is, as a coping mechanism for my issues, I became a sex addict. And I didn't realize it at first, but it didn't have to be about having sex with a person. It could be inappropriate messages or just sharing pictures, things like that. I did that as a way of coping. It made me feel like, okay, somebody likes me. They think I'm worthy of their attention, and they like what I do. So I just kept falling into it, and I would get caught, and I would try to explain it all away. And I had no idea that this was just my demons, my inner demons running my life.
Wow. When was the first time your wife caught you doing something like that?
I would say maybe about a year after we were married.
Oh, wow.
Just, like I said, when we got together, it was crazy,
Yeah.
we weren't even at that time, we weren't even dating when we got married. So we were both doing our own thing, and it just happened. And then, it was just some messages through, I guess back then I was still on MySpace at the time.
Good old MySpace.
So it was some MySpace messages that she went through. you know, a lot of it was contacts with former girlfriends or former partners I've had. Just kind of talking about things we used to do, things we would like to continue doing. Um, when then she noticed that there was a pattern, and mind you, you know, she was someone I really respect even to this day. One of the most intelligent women I've ever met. Very thorough and methodical in her way of thinking. But I think her frustration with me and not moving up as quickly as she wanted to me. You know, she definitely took that out on me a few times.
Yeah.
It was, you know, that's where the feelings of not being good enough would continue. So I would find someone else to make me feel like I was good enough. Um, you know, and I was good at hiding it from my kids, but not from her. And it just, you know, we would be fine for about a year or two, and then I'd fall back into it because maybe she said something that I didn't like, or I felt like felt whatever I just, you know, whatever fun I had with the kids or whatever gesture I had, I was trying to show towards her wasn't good enough for her, you know, and it wasn't entirely her fault for making me feel that way. Um, my inability to communicate with her definitely made it harder for us to work on it together.
Now, did you ever like go to therapy or anything, or did you not realize that that is why what was making you triggered like that? Did you not realize that then?
I didn't realize it back then. Like for her, she just noticed that I was depressed. A lot of times, it was hard for me to enjoy time with at home with the family, um, or when we were outing. Like I was very quiet and reserved. Um, I was probably one of the most introverted human beings you could ever meet. And as much as I tried to socialize and be more open, it was just very awkward. And sometimes I would say or do something that would embarrass her, and then I'm just shutting myself back in.
Yep.
So she wanted me to see about doing something, with, at least for the depression. But it really wasn't towards the end of our marriage. I could realize, you know, this is getting really bad. Towards the end of the marriage, I was actually having an affair that lasted about 2 years. It was a coworker I used to flirt with, and we hadn't spoken or seen each other for about 10 years. And she reached out to me one day, and just it just went from there. I did very well hiding it. She did suspect something was going on because I would be out sometimes till 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. By that time, I had a really good job. Um, that was where I got out late, and sometimes I would go and hang out with my coworkers afterwards. Yeah, I'd use that as a means of just slipping away.
Right.
But I think for me, I realized it was getting really bad when my daughter, she was 11 at the time, noticed some text messages coming from someone that she didn't know. Um, and she asked me about them, and I wasn't prepared to answer that question, so I lied.
Yeah.
I said it was someone else, and she immediately knew I was lying. That definitely made me feel awful. Like for some reason, I had no problem lying to my wife, but for my daughter, it was different.
Yeah, and this isn't you don't not love your wife. It's just
Hmm.
you were dealing with this issue and you didn't know how to control it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was just constant, and I knew. For me, I knew that if I had more confidence in myself, I wouldn't be resorting to those things
Yeah.
because it was a band aid for hurt feelings, um, and uh, and all the trauma that I suffered as a child. Um, she found out about the affair because the woman I was seeing was giving me a ride home from work one night, and we pulled around the corner to just chat and do her thing for a little bit, and she was carjacked. And I had no way. I tried to hide it, but then I just had to go out and admit it. You know, and I had to tell her, hey, you know, because my phone was stolen, so we had to find my phone, and so I had to admit it. And things were just pretty bad for a while there. She wanted nothing to do with me. Um, we started to make our arrangements, living apart, and but then I guess a part of her wanted to feel like maybe we can still fix this because I recognized that I did have a problem, and I actually started going to therapy.
Yeah.
Um, and I started researching other means of healing and managing my emotions in between those sessions. Um,
I
so
mean,
I
she,
began meditating regularly, and I began to identify those negative things that I learned from my parents that I thought were normal that really weren't. So I started to make those changes at home. Um, Being able to find more constructive and healthy ways of releasing stress and anger. Um, I became a really chill person, and
yeah.
my kids were the first ones to notice the difference. Um, I think by this time um, she was pretty much washing her hands of everything. She didn't want to be part of this. She was just like, this is your problem, you fix it. But at the same time, as I was gaining confidence with myself, knowing that I can handle my issues, I began to feel better. I felt more confident being alone than being in a marriage. So little by little, we began to grow even more distant.
Yeah. I mean, that must
Um,
be hard for her, though. I mean, for her to stick around. I mean, you said since the beginning you've been kind of doing this, and for her to stick around. I mean, she really cares about you, and loved you. Because
yeah,
I mean, a lot of people would have after the first one within a year, and you get caught doing something, people would have been like, "I'm out," you know.
yeah. Well, I think maybe like this is, I mean, this is her second marriage, and her first marriage fell apart for the same reasons.
And she didn't want
Um,
this one to fail.
yeah, because I think she knew that she could see more potential in me than in her first husband.
Yeah.
I can say that he hasn't changed, and it was pretty much too little, too late. But I think what pretty much did it. I ended up in the hospital, but in I was 7 hours away when I ended up in the hospital. My lungs went into failure because of COVID, and she knew I was ill, but she did not know how bad it was. But I kind of felt like that the week or two before while I was ill, I felt like an inconvenience to her.
And you were living
Like,
7 hours apart at this point,
no,
or you were just away.
yeah, I was just away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were still living together at the time. There was very little communication between us, unless I had something to do with the kids. But I kind of felt like she was put out and inconvenienced by me being sick. Certain things that she would say to me, and I took it personally. When I ended up in the hospital, I didn't tell her. I told my kids. I posted it on social media just to make it easy for my friends and family to know, hey, I'm in really bad shape, but take care of yourselves. And just for the fact that I didn't tell her at all, that was pretty much like it for her.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been pretty
Um,
pissed too if I was her.
yeah, I mean, for many years, I sought to seek validation from people on social media.
Yeah. Yep.
That was another way. I guess that's why why there were so many years between the times I would slip up, fooling around behind her back because I had social media to try to validate what I do. Um, but then I realized, as much as I love my kids, nothing I'm going to do is nothing I do really matters to everyone else except what it should matter to me. Um, my kids began once my kids knew what I was struggling with and the changes that I saw. They began to get a lot closer to me, feel more open to talk to me.
Yep.
Um, I had prepared them. I told them ahead of time, and I had one-on-one talks with every single one of them. Your mom and I might not make it. This is the mistake I made. Um, they tried to justify it, telling me, well, because of the way mom treats you, that's okay. No, it's not.
Good for you. Yeah.
I told them, I don't want you guys to think this is normal or ever okay. If you feel like you need to find something else with someone else, then you need to end the relationship first. I hurt your mom's feelings, and it was something I shouldn't have done. I don't want you guys to think that's the same way. It should never be it should never be you hurt them and then leave. Just leave and keep things cool, um, and then then we sort it out afterwards. So that transition was not as rough for them because they already knew.
Yep.
And but they noticed an even bigger change in me because now I was out of this environment where I felt I was being held back. Um, I tried to move ahead in life. I'm a career chef. Like I love cooking. And so all I could see myself doing is just cook. And even if I'm not, making, 80 grand or 100 grand, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. But I knew that I needed to find some way to move up in life. And I was trying to find my own ways to do it, but I never had her support in anything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um, she was supportive as long as I fell in line with her narrative of success. And I think for me, when I realized that I don't have that kind of support, because even if I fail, at least it was a learning lesson. That's when I came to realize that maybe her and I not being together wasn't such a bad thing after all.
And do you feel like more free now that everything's out in the open? You've talked to your kids, you've talked to your ex. You don't have to like live with that anymore. You can be like, I can do what I want. And you're proud of the things that you're doing as well without hearing, some negative thoughts behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I feel free just in the sense that I can solve my own problems.
Yeah.
And you know, and not feel like you said ridiculed because maybe it wasn't done the way someone else wanted to, but I still got the same results. So I can see that I can take care of myself. Um, I can handle my responsibilities. Of course, money is always a struggle when you have child support, right? But anytime the kids needed something, I always come through for them.
Yeah. Now, how was the transition? Like, are you guys are divorced now?
Yes.
So you're divorced.
Yes.
How was the transition with the kids and everyone? Because they all knew the situation.
Well, it's kind of hard to say because we were supposed to talk. We agreed that both of us were going to talk to them at the same time. But then she decided to go ahead and tell at least the my twins and my daughter before I could get back into town. So we went to dinner and the day after I returned to town after recovering, and just asked them, "Hey, you guys have any questions? Any concerns?" They're like, "Well, we kind of knew it was coming, but like, are you going to be okay? That's all that really matters. I'm going to be okay because now I didn't have a place to live." But I had awesome employers that helped me out when they found out about my situation. So I had at least someplace temporary. I could at least have them over and hang out. Um, but one of them told me, says, "Dad, I think it's awesome. You're doing all these things. You get to do all these things with this, and Mom's not here to tell you that it's wrong." And
So they even really saw that.
Yeah, they even saw that because I think one of the worst situations was, um, I was homeschooling two of them for about a year, and we would go to the local Y, and one of my oldest boys, him and I would work out because he has his own set of issues he's been dealing with. He was a victim of bullying. He was assaulted by a teacher. He had to spend some time in a weekend in a psych hospital because he was on suicide watch.
So it's so crazy how, just like your situation, how you said when you were younger, but that stuff really carries with you, the bullying, the terrible things that people do to other people. It really affects someone's life down the road and you don't even know it.
It really does. Because I think my biggest takeaway from that marriage was if her and I were going to be miserable the whole time, then we have to be split up because I could see how it was affecting the kids.
Yeah.
And now they do feel like they have two separate lives now because they do their own thing with their mom, they do their own thing with me, but they have better versions of their parents now.
Absolutely. Yep.
You know, and for them, you know, and I had to teach them a lot of new things as well. Like you said, like my daughter um, was trying to push me to date certain coworkers because they're very affectionate people, but that's just who they naturally are. But they were really sweet and kind to me, and she's like, you know, Dad, maybe you should try dating. And I'm like, well, why? Because she's nice to you. And I'm like, well, why would you say that? Because Mom was never nice to you. And I was like, well, that shouldn't be your takeaway from this. It's like
Yeah.
people can be nice just to be nice. Just that doesn't mean that they like me. I had to, you know, teach them things like that because they weren't. I came to realize there was a lot of things that they never saw in the marriage that they should have seen.
Yep.
You know, and I admitted to them, I was like, I didn't set a very good example of what a husband should be. You know, and I was like, I can't speak for your mom, but I have to teach you guys now before it's too late.
I mean, I think that's huge. That is literally one of the most important things that you could have probably done. You know, owned up to what you did, and you know your mom's not in the wrong. I messed up. That's huge. Good for you, man.
But yeah, thanks. I think therapy definitely helped a lot with that because um, you know, anytime I would complain about a situation that I thought I handled right, you know, my therapist was really good at making me question myself. Now think about why. What is it about you that made you think that way, or made you feel the way that she reacted? And it made me question myself, and then I had to see things from a different perspective. Like, okay, well, maybe I could have responded differently, or um, so that was the beginning of me just being able to analyze myself and realize everything I did wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and I had to accept it before I could begin the healing process because you know I had to see what the results were of my inability to handle my issues. Um, and admit, okay, I did everything, I handled everything wrong, but at least I can now do it and focus on healing and learning to control those demons. And it hasn't been easy, but
Oh, for
you
sure.
know, between the therapy and the meditation, and I don't even think twice about laying a finger on my kids now.
Right.
Um, I
Do they
know that for
resent
a
you
lot
for
of
that, or do they understand why you did that, or no? It was just they were young.
the older, yeah, they do now.
Yeah.
My youngest, I guess my youngest, he kind of took the worst of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been years since I've laid a finger in any of them, and you know, the oldest three are very understanding, and they're glad that I worked through it. Um, you know, I would tell them horror stories about my childhood, but it was never one of those. Um, it was never one of those. Yo, you guys are lucky that you have it this way. You know, because I had it worse. I mean, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
It was more about this is what I went through, and I don't want you guys to go through it either. Um, so they could at least understand what I was, uh, the origins of my problems, and know that this is what happened because this is who I became because of what I lived through. But I'm going to fix it, and they saw me fix it, and every time they saw me get better, they gave me words of encouragement.
That's awesome.
Um, it turned out that they were just, you know, I didn't want to seek validation from anyone after at that point. Even if their mother had complaints about something, it didn't bother me anymore because I was like, okay, well, sorry that bothered you. It's noted, and then I don't do it again. To this day, that's how we are now. But I
Are you
don't
guys
take
on good
anything
terms?
personally. For the most part, I mean, we can talk about things if we need to, but pretty much conversations only occur whenever it involves children.
Yeah.
If she needs me to help pick something up, pick a kid up, I'll do it. I'll help her. You know, we go half on Christmas presents, little things like that. But I wouldn't say that we're like actually friends or anything.
Yeah, but I mean that's
Um,
good that you know she's not holding the kids from you or any you know those stupid games that people play when there's a breakup or a divorce.
mhm.
It seems like
I
it's pretty good with that.
Yeah, well, her first divorce was really nasty. I witnessed a lot of it,
Yeah.
and she didn't want to go through that again. She saw the effect it had on her other children. She had two from that marriage.
Okay,
She
so
saw
she
the
has
effect
six
of it.
total.
Yes.
That's a
Uh,
full house for a single woman.
yeah.
Wow.
Well, the older two are old enough to take care of
Oh,
themselves.
I guess that's
So
true. Your oldest are 16. Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah.
one's already graduated. The other one's graduated this month. He's already moved out. But yeah, she didn't want to go through that again, and I didn't feel like that would be good for the kids either because I got to see how it affected her kids.
Yep.
And I even though I wasn't the best stepfather to them either, even them, I didn't want them to have to see anything like they had to see before with their father. And to this day, they have nothing to do with him.
Oh, with their original dad. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, they have nothing to do with him now. Once they were at a certain age, they were able to just pull away, and it kind of sucks because um, I think he wasted good opportunity to have an actual healthy relationship with his kids. That probably would have helped him deal with his issues.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For me, that was my biggest reason is just be a better example for my kids, um, and that's all I've been focusing on ever since. Aside from having to start over and um, focusing spent this last year just getting myself sorted, getting my finances sorted. Um, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna try to begin starting up my own business here in the next couple months or so. Just something small and just work from there.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's the hardest part is having to start over, and some people stay into a relationship because they don't want to start over, but in the long run, it's not good for you. It's not good for them. It's not good for anybody. So it's like just like you said earlier, if you feel like you're not being respected and you feel like you shouldn't be in this relationship, get out, you know?
yeah, I think and that's true. I think that's probably the main reason why neither of us took that step. Uh, is I know I didn't think I had what it takes to start over.
Oh, it's difficult as
Um,
hell. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, she didn't want to waste her second chance, basically. But once I realized that I could do this, and once I realized how I felt being able to do this, um, it wasn't so bad. I just knew I was like, maybe I should have done this sooner.
Good for you, man.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe if I had come to terms a lot sooner, I wouldn't have taken it as far as I did. Because I look back and I feel like even if things were different, doesn't necessarily mean it would have been better.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of dads need to kind of think about that, especially if they're the ones at fault. You got to look back and see whether it would have made any difference, or whether would it would just make things, would it just um, what's the word, delay the inevitable, or would you guys made it work? So for me to be able to let go, I had to look back and see if I fixed myself sooner, had I not allowed myself to take it as far, would things have worked? And and I came to realize that it probably still would have ended, but under different terms.
Right. But I mean, the best thing you can do is better yourself, be a better person. And then,
Mhm.
you can have a great relationship with your ex, not as in like a, marriage or sexual relationship, but just be great
Right.
friends with her. And you know what I mean? Like life will be great.
Yeah, I think one of
It's
the
all about
last
self
words.
improvement.
Yeah, I think one of the last words of encouragement she had was like, I really do hope that you get yourself, that you do better yourself. But I kind of felt like at that point, I kind of felt like that it didn't really mean anything. But I felt like if it really mattered to her, then she would have been next to me, helping me with this.
Yeah.
I knew that that it was down to me to fix myself. But, it wasn't just a me problem, it caused a we problem as well.
Yeah.
And I felt like, I kind of feel like she could have done more to at least be supportive, and she wasn't. And for that reason, I just realized, we probably wouldn't have lasted either way.
Right.
And
Right.
with that, I was able to make peace with us separating, and um, but yeah, I was able to move on easily.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, that's an
Uh,
amazing story, and good for you for the self-improvement. You really realized that it was your issue. You were the one causing kind of what's going on, and you're the only one who can change it.
yeah, and I still have more work to do, um, but at least now, and if I ever start messing up, I am actually able to catch myself
Yep.
and question myself before I actually do anything stupid or do anything I'll regret. That's something I never did before. I'd always have like this excuse to just do it and be and just deal with the consequences later. But now I'm just like, okay, what are you doing? What's the most important thing you need to be doing here? And once you're able to question yourself, with every little thing you do, you begin to understand, that situations will always influence you to make the bad decisions, but you have control over the results. Mm. I think if anybody struggles a lot with why they do things the way they do, um, I recommend what they call shadow work. It's a concept that was developed by Carl Jung. He's like a world-renowned psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. And you basically have to have a dialogue with yourself, whether journaling, um, or even like just inner dialogue. You just if you're feeling certain ways about certain situations, you just talk to yourself. Why are you feeling this way? Why do you want to respond in this manner? Um, it's basically you facing all these qualities about yourself that you repress because you're either ashamed or you're afraid of them coming out. But you have to learn to face them and accept them, that this is a part of who you are. And then once you accept it as a part of who you are, you have control over those feelings.
Right.
You can use that actually to your benefit rather than using it to hurt yourself or hurt others. Um, I think for me, having that kind of mindset was definitely the game changer for me. And as long as you're able to, question yourself and um, basically hype yourself up. You're like, you got this. This, whatever's happening in your life right now, it's not forever.
Right. You
You're
got to be your own
tougher.
cheerleader.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
tougher than the situation. Like they always say, you know, tough times always end, but tough people last longer. So you just got to remind yourself, man, you're always tougher than this, and you're always gonna, as long as you focus on what you want to be for your children, um, and for yourself, most importantly, as long as you keep your eyes on that, like you'll be able to navigate life and make sure that you don't let yourself or the people closest to you down.
Dude, Mario, I really appreciate you coming on, man. That was an awesome, awesome story. I can't wait to publish this and put this out. I think people are going to get a lot out of it. So thank you so
Uh,
much.
my pleasure. It's nice to share about it. Now once I got past that feeling of shame and regret, I realized that this is the ultimate tool for not for me, but now I can see that it can be a good tool for others as well
Yeah,
in my
definitely.
situation.
Definitely, man. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And I'll send you a link when we post this up.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks
All
for
right. Have
having
a
me
good
on.
one.
You too.
All right. Bye.